Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another exciting episode. This one is a two-part series where we are answering two key questions. Number one is why should you explore a career abroad? And number two is how can you build a successful startup in the AI space? And to discuss both of this, I have with me Kushal Sinha, who is the founder and CEO of LearnQ.ai. Interesting platform. They have gamified the entire learning experience, and starting with SAT, they have made it so easy to learn that you can go onto the platform, play a bunch of games, and understand where you're doing well, where you're not doing well. And because of this interesting concept, they have already amassed about 100,000 users on their platform. With the current pace, they would be closer to about $1 million in terms of revenue. Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast, Kujal. It's a pleasure to host you.
Thanks a lot, Vivek, for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here. In a nutshell, what we think we're doing at LearnQ is to quantify learning. We saw a lot of these edtech platform, what I will call like Gen 1, which are based on internet. And I think they did a very great job of solving accessibility problem. And suddenly now a person sitting in even tier 3, tier 4 cities or across the world have access to some really good lectures by some really good teachers and professors. We still saw that even after all these platforms, the students are still clueless. It's maybe good for a very self-driven learner. Let's be honest, there aren't that many, and we have to kind of think about all the students who are there. And there's still like need for these private tutoring. At core of LearnQ, we believe that this relation of human, like a teacher and a student, will never go away. And what we should do is to strengthen this relation, build tools where a teacher himself can know better, like where a student is learning, where he's lagging, where he needs more support. If Gen 1 edtechs solve the problem for accessibility, what we are trying to solve is for efficiency. With AI, we could build a knowledge graph of a student while he's playing the games on our platform. And we have AI tutor bots which can help him continuously guide along his learning journey. But at the same time, building this observability layer for teachers where they or educators where they can see and understand where which kid need help and provide that help in a timely manner. And I think that's where we are thinking about this whole thing a little different, and definitely with the pace of AI development, things are getting easier day by day.
Kushal, before we sort of jump into, and I would like to know more about the startup and how you're building it, and then my audience also wants to do it, especially in the current age of AI, where I think with a very small team you can build a massive company and a profitable one. You born brought up in Gaya, then you went to IIT, then you went to study abroad. Why should somebody consider studying and having a career abroad? And before we sort of jump onto that question, Kushal, would be great if you can sort of talk about your early life. How was growing up, financial background, what were your aspirations? Did you wanted to go to NASA? What was it? That would be interesting.
I actually did want to go to NASA, so funny that you mentioned. But I have a very simple background. I come from a small town called Gaya in Bihar. Growing up was very normal. I feel like very much like a 90s kid. The whole state was reeling into this whole, financial crisis. Money was something that wasn't there growing up, but a good, happy life, I would say. You are from Bihar as well. I mean, we all know like there weren't that many good schools and colleges around. IITs were definitely one of the kind of salvation for most of us. So I studied hard, tried to crack IIT JEE exam because that was the only way I could see myself propelling further in my career. And it was an affordable option that my parents could afford. That was one of the biggest motivation, I would say. And I did pretty well at IIT as well, was the topper of my department throughout. I did a summer intern in Germany while I was at IIT, and I saw that I really love being at a very cutting edge of a technology. So I wanted to kind of pursue a little bit that further in my career. And that's basically why the whole study abroad thing happened.
Hi, I'm Vivek. I'm a graduate of IIT Roorkee. I'm a partner in India's leading consulting firm, advisor, investor in startups, and I create content to help you make better career choices. So if you're new here, do consider subscribing. And if you find the video useful, do give it a like. I wanted to know a bit more about your parents. So were they on the service side? Were they having a business? Now, given that you're building a business right now, so
My family, nobody was ever in having a business. My father
okay,
was a lawyer
okay.
in
Okay.
Gaya courts.
Growing up in Bihar and when you go to IIT, right, that's pretty much the ultimate dream. And once you have done that dream, maybe end up settling up, getting the job, the jump between where you were and versus the kind of job that you get from IIT. That's a good enough sort of gap. Why did you not, let's say, settle up with a job, then go abroad? So what was the like a core motivation to study abroad up beside, of course, going to NASA? But what's the core motivation of going abroad?
There was two main driving factor at that time. One, as I said, like I went for this internship, and before that internship, I never saw myself as a research kind of a person.
Okay.
But I remember just in that one summer, I was able to improve slot coating machine that they were working on for almost like 7-8 months, and like a couple other very senior PhD students. In just one summer, I was able to improve that design in the way they wanted, and they ended up filing patents and all that. My professor always there was like, you should go for research. Somewhere in my mind, it kind of settled during that internship. I came back, gave my GRE and TOEFL exam as a backup. I did not want to pursue PhD right away. As you said, I mean, definitely the job you get after coming out of IIT is good enough. Why would you do it? Why would you leave your country? Funny enough, the whole 2008 recession happened when I was looking for a job. Like 2008 December was our campus placement was going to happen, and I remember like starting in somewhere around like October, all big companies that we were eagerly waiting, they all started like pulling back that, oh, we are not coming on campus place. Funny enough, I remember it was 15th December, and you know in IIT like how crucial those first, second, the third Decembers are for job placement. If you aren't placed in
Yeah.
those days, probably won't be placed. I remember being rejected almost by all companies because I had a 9-point GPA. Very funny. I remember like for one company, I ended up cracking all the technical interview, and it was like 3 a.m. in the night. And in the HR round, they say that you have a 9.5 GPA. I don't think you will stay with us. In this economy, we really want someone who would like, if we give him a job, he stays with him. And I'm trying to convince him like, no, I will stay with you guys. Please hire me. But no, they did not give me the offer. So in fact, having a very high GPA and during that recession time basically played against me. If they think I will not stay, I might as well not. It was already pretty late to apply for colleges by then. I remember Stanford and a couple other already had like 1st December as their deadline for application. I really scrambled. I remember like writing my SOP in like just 15 days because December 31st was the next big deadline for college admission. Lucky enough, I had given my GRE and TOEFL exam. In my mind, I was thinking like to do job couple years, understand by going in industry where exactly I like, and then pursue that way, right? I was thinking about doing PhD, but maybe it deferred and maybe it wouldn't have happened. This whole recession definitely propelled me. I ended up getting a campus job somewhere, I think, around 22nd December. But by
Okay.
that time, I had made up my mind.
Given that you have gone through that entire process, who should consider going abroad to do a master's or a PhD or even a bachelor's?
I mean, there could be a lot of scenarios. Definitely, I've seen more folks who come here for masters and PhDs or even MBA. I've actually met a lot of folks who have done undergrad as well. In general, I see a lot of people doing it as a career boost. They want to kind of get a degree from a maybe more reputable college. These universities have much higher ranking. So it definitely opens up door across the globe. I mean, if you go and study at London School of Economics or MIT, definitely boosts your career prospects. And not to mention the alumni network then you can now tap into. But I think the biggest thing which I have seen is the emphasis in US, at least. I cannot speak for other countries. But in US, there's this whole idea of this whole first principles thinking. Even the 2 year of higher study will really force you to be more critical, and that could help you a lot.
In your case, you went to IIT, you are a 9.5 plus sort of CGPA guy. But let's say somebody who has not been to IIT and is studying in a different college, doing a BTech there, what are their chances of doing a master's or PhD abroad? How easy or difficult it is? Does it sort of really helps the case if you go to IIT, or can people from other colleges also consider this?
Oh, you should definitely. I mean, they can. I've met people from all sorts of colleges coming out of India, being here in US for almost like last 15 years. Going to IIT definitely boosts you a little bit. I will say like the thing that we don't realize, right? Like we have some professors who have good research background who can write you good recommendations that will help you. Typically, a curriculum at IIT forces you to go do internships and like maybe research internships as well. So like having that kind of background could help you in your college application. But at the same time, the US university application is very interesting. It's not like our JEE exam where just one scores dictate your whole application. It's a very holistic process if you look at it. you have your GRE or GMAT score, but at the same time, you submit your GPAs from your undergrad. You also have to write, get recommendations from people who know you. You also have to write a statement of purpose, like why you even want to do it. And in many cases, you will also have to write a diversity essay. What would you bring? Why your diverse background would help, this curriculum or this program. They look at all these different things together and then kind of decided whether or not they want to give an admit.
If somebody understands this process and execute it well, it's not required and or mandatory, or your college is
No,
not a blocker, at least in India, and you can go out and
no. I
study
mean, my
abroad.
wife is from like a University of Mumbai. She came here and she actually went to UPenn, which is an Ivy League. So she, in fact,
Okay.
went to a better school than I did. I think people do that, and I've seen folks going into even MITs and other places, like very prestigious programs as well, coming from non-IIT colleges. Definitely because of the whole, like if you have a good GRE score, if you have a good TOEFL score, if you have a good like statement, very strong statement of purpose. And again, when I say recommendation, right, it doesn't have to be a very named professor. It has to, like what US in general I've seen, and I've actually helped my advisor once in the whole admission process. They were not about like, who wrote your recommendation. It's actually about how good that person knew you. Did you work with him? Did you did research under him? Or there has to be very strong relationship that you had with this person, and that person can say something about. And the quality of those recommendations matter more. Yeah, you may think that a IIT professor writing recommendation will have higher weight, but that's not the case.
I think maybe a concern for people coming from, let's say, not so financially secure background. How affordable is it to study abroad? What percentage of cases do you get scholarship?
Yeah, that's actually a really good question. So I always used to joke that everyone who seeks a scholarship gets it. There's so many different avenues. I never paid for my PhD, not a single time. But the thing is, like there was stipend in our department for being a research assistant, and we were given that from first year itself. But I know many other folks who would do either like a teaching assistant job or like a research assistant job, or you could even like find a lot of jobs on the campus which would like give you very decent salary, and then you can basically offset your like loan payments. And then there are also options to kind of work for a company. Like one of my roommate, he was like partially employed with a company, so he would go and work for 2 days. Another thing in general in US is that your semester is your semester. You can literally design it the way you want it. There aren't any like required courses in any given semester. You can completely reshuffle. And in my roommate's case, he chose subjects or like classes that way that he was only busy in school for 3 days, and 2 days were completely free. And those 2 days he would go and work for the company, and they will pay for his fee. There are a lot of these options. Even if you get a teaching assistant, your fees is waived off, and you get a good enough stipend that you can pay for your rent and food and other things. So the only caveat here would be that I haven't seen that many scholarship in undergrad, but definitely for masters and PhDs, there are a lot of scholarships around. All these opportunities that we just talked about.
Let's say, I mean, you have gone through the process of IIT. I've also gone through the process of IIT. We also know about this exam of SAT. So if somebody in
Yep.
India is preparing for IIT versus SAT, how easy, let's say, or difficult is SAT? What will be your sort of recommendation to consider SAT or to consider IIT-JEE?
Definitely a personal choice. Let's first compare the difficulty of these two exams. I think for most Indian students, where they will struggle in SATs will be the English portion of the exam, which
Okay.
is little tricky. It really asks you to have a very strong command of the language, as well as have a very strong reasoning mind. It really tries to trick you in its options. So that's where it becomes a little tricky, I think, for most Indian kids. The math part is actually very straightforward. It's mostly what we studied in like 8th or ninth grade. I think for most folks in India, they will do pretty good in math, because if you're preparing for JEE is so much harder compared to as it is. Being honest there, but at the same time, unfortunately, JEE happens only once a year, which I always hated. Like it's like you have to be really well. Your mind has to be working on that one particular day, and like that really determines your entire career. Versus SATs at least happen 6 or 7 times a year, depending upon the
Okay.
geography. And then there are a lot of like other things in SATs as well. Like you can pick the score Like say you gave multiple times and you did really well in maths in like say first exam, but you did really well in English in the second exam. So you can do a composite score where you can take the score from this one in just maths and this one. So and then boost your overall score. Last I checked, around 450 colleges in India accept SAT, and like some as high prestigious like BITS Pilani as well, or like VIT Velo or SAT scores are considered in lot many European and Australian universities as well. You can apply to London schools of economics, definitely US. All universities require SAT.
So I'm not going to ask your salary, but I think most of us are looking at number. I think what kind of money or salary are we going to get after we get graduate? What would be, let's say, a minimum salary somebody who's getting graduate degree from the US will be having, and similarly a postgraduate degree will be having?
Again, depends, varies definitely by the stream for sure. But if you are in STEM, and even in STEM, let's say you're doing computer science right now, which is definitely in high demand, expect a salary somewhere between 60 to 90K, could be even
Okay.
100K in some cases,
Okay.
just after like undergrad. So
Okay.
definitely much better salary. After post grad, I think usually master's salaries are in the range of, I would say, 80 to 110. I was in job market like almost like 10 years ago, so I don't know how the base salaries have changed in the last like 9 years. PhDs typically get like somewhere between 100 to 140K, or even higher. One of my roommate who was in computer science got a base salary of like 210K. Big techs for PhDs, they pay crazy money. And then MBAs, again, I've seen starting salary of around 140 to somewhere around 180 to 200K.
I think somebody who can, let's say, is appearing for SAT in India and going for undergrad, maybe postgrad after studying in India, or a PhD, and it comes from kind of financially challenged background, even if he or she ends up taking a loan, would be able to recover it after he or she is able to get a job. So I think it's worth sort of considering this option and not solely relying on the IIT-JEE thing that we are crazy about in our country.
I would highly recommend that. It definitely opens way more door for you. I'll give you this anecdote. I mean, I went to IIT, and I remember like my first semester here, I was like, yeah, I can take 6 courses in a semester. I mean, at IIT, I was taking six theory courses and 3 practical, like 9 courses in a semester, and I was doing pretty well. I realized very soon how rigorous study here is, like how everybody is doing their own homework, doing their own assignments. Like literally, a lot of my professors were teaching right from like research papers which were like just 1 month old. So like a lot of these professors were not even teaching from a textbook, and I was like, what is going on? There is no book, there is no like assignments I have to do, like projects, and there are always projects involved. Like there's a big emphasis in US to kind of do a lot of projects on the things that you're learning. So there was constantly like throughout the semester a project is running, which is like, and the project is getting complex day by day as we are covering more grounds in the class, keeping you on the toe kind of experience. A counselor was assigned to me, one of my professors, and he told me like, don't take this many courses, you won't be able to survive. And I remember like 2 months into the process, I definitely can't do these 6 courses, and I dropped 2 courses. And I've taught as well undergrad courses. There was a part of me who wanted to be a professor, so I've done a lot more teaching, I think, than a general grad student is required to. I can tell you the undergrad experience is no different. Going through that kind of experience definitely makes you think like way different.
Given that at least on your platform you have started with SAT as something that people can come on your platform and start learning, if you have to pitch to the students why they should be using LearnQ.ai, what will be your pitch?
The biggest thing at LearnQ is we're trying to keep it interesting and engaging. Learning should be fun, and learning is a continuous thing, and that's why like we constantly keep getting these testimonials from our students that learning on LearnQ was fun. And the reason is because they're playing games. While playing game, they're getting to know their strengths and weaknesses. So it's giving a lot of data as well. And I feel like the younger generation is more data savvy. They understand data. They're not like scared by looking at some graphs and all. That kind of data helps them being more focused, like our own tutor, AI tutor, Mia, which can transform the whole learning experience. You can ask her to kind of create mythical, fantastical land like, Mathlandia, and she will take you there and teach you linear equations, and as if you're learning in a storytelling way. Or if you love cricket, it can literally change all the concepts in reference to cricket.
Is it possible that somebody can just, let's say, go to your platform and does not have a coaching institute, but use your platform to prepare for SAT and then be able able to clear the exam, or do they need any external support after your platform?
We have seen both kind of students for sure. For someone who's a self-starter and like is very motivated, our platform is perfect place for them, because not only a lot more understanding that, okay, you know what, if you had mastered this topic, your expected score in actual SAT would jump by like say these many points. You definitely are seeing after giving any test your strength and weakness, so you can like really create a strategy on your own. Like we give a personalized study plan as well based on the diagnostic test you take on our platform. If you are on your own, the platform is enough and you have Mia to kind of answer your doubts 24/7. But at the same time, we see a lot of folks kind of, using our platform with their teachers as well. And the good thing there is that the teacher is also another layer of support. Typically, the way we see it, like the teachers do the one-on-one or like in a group setting to these students, so that they understand the concepts through the teacher. They come to our platform in that case to do practice. All that data is again exposed to teachers, so they can utilize that data as well to kind of push or like be more guided with the student.
It's almost like a very low cost sort of solution. So instead of spending like lakhs of rupees in a coaching institute, you can buy this, you go to your platform and start sort of practicing at a much lower cost.
Yes.
I see that there are some really prestigious schools in India and abroad who are using your platform. You would like to talk about them?
Yeah, one of the biggest prestigious name that we have is Doon School in India, and which directly uses our platform and gives it to their students. But at the same time, we have partnered with many SAT prep institutes and counselors across India. So I would say at this point, pretty much most international schools in a way are using LearnQ product. And not just in India. I mean, we have clients in South Korea. So like many good prestigious schools in South Korea are using it. In Singapore, folks are using it. In Dubai and Middle East, they're using it. And definitely in US, we actually have some really great teachers and schools using the platform for the SAT needs. And interesting thing what has happened with SAT is that it has gone digital for international market last year, and it went digital for US market this year. And SAT exam was pen and paper for last 100 years. We are seeing adoption that a lot of these good schools and like these really great teachers that we are working with who really want to utilize data. One of the things that LearnQ is changing is this concept we call micro testing. We think that the whole end sems and mid sems kind of thing come way too late for a student. Like if you did not understand, say, linear equation in one variable, and suddenly, like just like 1 week later, I'm teaching you like quadratic equations and exponential, you are lost. And that's where basically we see a lot of challenges the current classroom instructions happen. And that's why the way LearnQ is designed, like if you're teaching linear equation in one variable, right away give them to play games on that topic. And as they play, you will know right away that, whether or not they understood the concept. At least using LearnQ platform, we say that no child is left behind. And data has been instrumental in so many industries to boost productivity and efficiency. We just want to bring that in the education sector as well.
Sort of reiterating, so any student who is, let's say, does not have access to so much of money or access to such a school or coaching institute can hop on your platform and do that. And given that you have sort of done like one cycle of this SAT preparation, which are some of the popular colleges that your students have been to?
In general, we have seen folk getting somewhere between 150 to even 250 score jump in the actual SAT exam. Having a score of like say 1350 versus 1550 is like a night and day difference. Any score greater than 1500 will get you into top tier Ivy League schools in US. And when I say Ivy League, you could definitely get into like MITs and Harvards and Stanfords of the world. I remember like we ended up getting a testimonial of this girl from Brazil just using our platform. She got almost 200 score jump. She was able to get into Harvard and she was really happy.
Amazing.
And proud, and she ended up writing to us, quoting the data aspects. You're like, it was so much helpful. Like after giving every test, I could see where I need to study more. Like moments like that makes us all happy internally, like makes us proud, and at least like, maybe energizes us like, okay, we are on a good path helping kids.
Amazing.
I think we've seen folks like from across the world use the platform. Like we got a testimonial from very similar testimonial from a guy in South Korea getting into Stanford. A lot of those has happened in the last 1 year. It definitely, boosts the morale of the entire team.
Hoping this helps. This is Vivek signing off. Like, subscribe, share, and take care.